Right now we're with Josh Boggs, one of the best real estate agents, short sale specialists here in the state of Texas. So you broke down what a short sale is. It pretty much in layman's terms it's a way to avoid foreclosure by selling your home for less than what it's worth with the bank's approval.
That's correct. And getting it out from under it, hopefully not have to pay anything.
So let's talk about that, Josh. What's the big benefit? Says I'm a seller, I'm falling behind on my mortgage. What's the benefit of getting out of this thing?
There is actually a lot of benefits, and sellers don't think of it as much as they do. But number one, it's a positive way of taking care of a bad situation. You are taking a proactive step to take control over your own situation, and believe it or not, as crazy as it sounds, that is number one of the best things for you psychologically and just to get yourself back on track.
So Chance had kind of touched on it before, but to avoid a foreclosure is way better than bankruptcies and all this stuff, because it stays on your record 7 to 10 years.
Oh yeah.
I know that we had a conversation where you've turned people around in 2 years or 2.5 years right after a short sale, and they're ready to go again.
Absolutely. Well, because you got to think about it. So you guys had credit repair last week, but the number one thing about credit scores are delinquency. If they're missing your payments, well, that's why your credit score's in the mud.
Sure.
Short sales avoid a public derogatory negative remark that's going to stay on your credit for 7 to 10 if you have a foreclosure. The transaction itself is really the only thing that's actually sort of affected there. And most of the time we get the lien holders and the servicers to write off paid in full / settled or...
Wait, real quick, I'm so sorry. I just thought of something. What about loan modifications, man? Like a lot of people say, they try this loan modification, but it's kind of a conundrum because your credit score is low because you've missed a bunch of payments, and therefore you can't qualify for these loan modifications. Like these banks think that they're putting them through this like rigorous thing to get a loan modification, almost like a reset, but it's not possible because they don't really qualify.
It's funny, Bobby. That's why we encourage people to come talk to us, because we don't just push people to short sales.
You give them options.
Yeah, and we do talk about loan modifications because obviously with the HARP and the HAFA programs, which are the government programs that have been out there, the Housing Affordability Modification Program, they can still modify their loan even if they've got bad credit and stuff, because the government subsidizes these servicers to do that, or their mortgagers, if you want to call them. But we also know the truth of it. We know the truth that most people don't know what they can afford, and they also just blindly throw their paperwork at the bank thinking, well, they'll just give me whatever.
Right.
And most of the time they get a loan modification back that's not even going to affect them or help them anyway.
Right.
Or they just get turned down, or they never get an answer, and the next thing you know, they get a notice, hey, we're going to foreclose on your house.
Then it's too late to do it.
And then they're rushing to me and say, what do we do? So...
Now, Josh, when we're out there with buyers and we're looking at these listings, these short sales, they look great. They look like they're below market value. But for the regular buyer, are they that great?
Great question, Bobby. And I know you're rocking a bunch of buyers. I know you've been to a lot of our short sales. We will be the first one to tell you that short sales are not the instrument a buyer should look at primarily if they're saying, oh, let's get a great deal. Okay, because the banks are going to try to do everything they can to make sure they get as much money back as possible.
Sure.
So when we've got properties that are short sales, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a huge discount. They are at slightly discounted price, but at the same time, if you're going to have a buyer that's looking for a short sale, they're looking at a short sale not because it's a short sale, they're looking at it because it's the house that they love and they can see themselves in, and they're going to stick with it because it's a short sale.
But we call them the mirages of the MLS, right? Because we see them and we're like, oh my God, that looks like a great deal, right? Like it's in this neighborhood that we've been looking at. It's like 20% lower than everything else. But these prices that short sale agents put on there, these are just estimates of what you're hoping that a bank may take, right?
Yeah, and I can't speak for other listing agents that claim to do short sales, but
okay. I'll speak for that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm always just blown away when I see those prices, and I know what they're doing. It's because the clients come to them last minute. They say, I'm about to get foreclosed on, help me save my house. And they're, oh, let's do short sale. I've heard about this. I write it up on Google, right? That Google thing.
Right.
So they say, well, let's price it really low so everybody will come in and look at it. We'll get an offer, and maybe we'll get the bank to approve it.
Right.
But they could very well be shooting themselves and the homeowner in the foot because they priced it wrong at the very get-go. And then, of course, buyers want to fight about that. Wait a second. You offered it for $100,000. Why are they saying they want 20?
So there's a huge shock when it's 100 and then it jumps up to 140 or 150.
Oh, absolutely. It's because they just priced it to get an offer and look at it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go through.
What would you say a buyer needs to know about short sales?
A whole lot. But the main number one thing is, obviously we're not the only ones that do short sales, and we know there's other agents that are doing a great job on them, but you need to educate your buyers on what you as a professional buyer's agent talk to that listing agent to know that they know what they're doing.
Sure.
There's certain questions. I put it on the website. I've got a blog that I put about what you should ask a listing agent to actually know if they know what they're doing.
What are those kind of questions?
I mean, like for instance, have you received all the financials on your homeowner? What have you looked at their hardship? Is it approved hardship? Have you already supplied the docs to the lien holder or the servicer? Now there's actually pre-approved programs, like there's a fast track Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac program, FHA. So all those docs can already be submitted. They will already price list assist, helping that agent sort of just say, hey, we've already approved the homeowner for approved hardship, but we need an offer, and here's what the sales price needs to be.
Now, you're talking a little bit above even my head. So you're saying that when a buyer's out there with their buyer's agent, they got to really make sure that their buyer's agent's asking the listing agent that's pretending or doing the short sale the right question, make sure that the house is at the point where they can even accept an offer, right?
Oh, yeah, because you got to remember, if you're throwing the offer out there, it could be sitting in a black hole and never come out because they don't know what they're doing.
Gotcha.
And the listing agent is key to the city because they have the authorization to speak for that homeowner.
Gotcha.
So, go ahead. But I will have to mention this because
Sure.
it's something that's huge lately. Buyers need to be aware right now. Right now, it's a seller's market, right? So you have multiple offers.
Right.
We know that a lot of agents say, well, we'll just submit offers to the bank and then we'll take them to contract later. Well, if your buyer submits an offer, you need to make sure that listing agent has executed it and taken earnest money from you.
Right, or it's nothing.
Otherwise, it's nothing because your buyer's not protected because
Right.
they don't know if you're shopping other offers behind in the back.
Gotcha. So if you're just joining us, this is Bobby and JJ Radio. We're talking with Josh Boggs, the short sale specialist, and he's breaking down everything as far as short sales. Now, Josh, if I'm with Mr. and Mrs. Smith, just regular buyers, and they're looking to get a home in the next 30 to 60 days, let's say we just listed their house and they sold their home, and they just want to go and transition to a new home, we got to get away from short sales, right? Might not be the best deal 100% of the time. It actually might be kind of counterintuitive to be going after them.
Well, so you're saying they want to get rid of their house and buy another one?
Or anyone that's looking for a house in the next 30 or 60 days.
They got a time
Oh,
frame.
gotcha.
They got a
Okay.
time frame. They need,
Yes.
they need a home. They don't want to be homeless.
Right. If you got a buyer that needs a home right away, the one caveat I will say is, like, for example, we just had a buyer that we took 2 months to negotiate with the bank, got an approval from that buyer. They couldn't qualify. Once we already know what the net figure the banks won't accept, we typically can quickly turn around within 14 days and get a new approval. So those are good ones. And just look on that in MLS, and we put that on there on agent marks.
Right. So you actually update like, hey, this one's ready to go. But,
Absolutely.
But the big percentage of the short sales aren't. It's going to be a long, drawn-out 9-month process.
Correct.
Or something.
So I know a lot of our especially our first-time home buyers, they need assistance in closing costs. And I've seen a big difference in one listing to the next, where one short sale is helping us with closing costs, another short sale is saying no, the bank's not helping with closing costs. What's the deal with closing costs and short sales?
You know, I wish I could be more specific and have a generalization there, but every investor that owns those loans are different with their sort of guidelines and their restrictions. But I can tell you this, we know that we've been able to get up to 3% back on closing costs. FHA right now in their regulations, and their what they call supplemental directives, tell the servicers they can only accept 1% closing costs. But we know we can usually do what's called a variance request and submit that back and say, hey, look, in our San Antonio market, 3% is the norm. Here's what's going on. As long as we're meeting that net, they're going to approve it. But we got to fight it.
I got you. So it's not as easy just going to another regular seller and say, hey, Mr. Seller, I got this person that he has this loan and he needs his closing costs, and it's not an easy negotiation. It takes a little bit more.
There again, the listing agent needs to step up to the plate and know how to fight that.
So most of our transactions are regular cookie-cutter transactions, 30 to 45 days. But I've noticed with short sales, 3, 4, 5 months is pretty common. Why does it take so long?
Yeah, well, you know, if anybody has called the bank, then they know, you can talk to one person and they tell you got to submit this packet and you got to do this. And the next day you call somebody else and they tell you completely different. The straight and narrow is it's just the convolution that they have at the bank. And most people that you're talking to, they have 400 some files on their desk. If they're an assigned negotiator, they're not really caring. At the end of the day, they've got a certain quota they got to meet, but most of them can fall through the cracks very easily. So you've got to be up on them all the time.
Let me give you a scenario. I have a person that puts an offer in a short sale, and let's just use round numbers. You listed at 100, I put an offer at 100, and then someone comes in with a buyer that has cash, and he puts it at 95. They might actually go with the cash offer, even though it's less, right?
Well, the bank will, if we see the 100 and we know it's a good offer, we get that first. If we haven't seen the cash offer, we're going to run with that, guys, because remember, they don't care about financing.
What do they come at the same time?
They don't even-
95 cash.
They don't care.
Finance.
money is money to them.
Okay.
Now, as a listing agent, we obviously are going to take the cash offer where we don't want the cash offer. But remember, the bank is looking strictly at the numbers, what they're going to net.
So, Josh, this is some incredible information, man. I really appreciate you being on our show, dude. You're one of our favorite people in Kelowna.
I love you guys, man. You guys are awesome.
So if anyone knows of anyone that may need some information, Josh is giving me the top 10 ways to avoid foreclosure. If you want this package, you can text SHORT to 210-286-4440. That's 210-286-4440. You can also check out his team at exposedhomes.com. I want to thank everyone for being on the show today. This was an awesome show. It was very educational. Check us out on Facebook. Check out our YouTube, our SoundCloud, our Twitter. You can check us out at BobbyandJJRadio.com, BobbyandJJRadio.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Thanks.